All right. I want to start this lesson by giving all glory, honor, and praise to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rikahakwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles and teachers and wise men of great millstone that I learned this truth from through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Salutations out there to the elect. Okay, I want to start this lesson in the book of, the book of Matthew 24, chapter 24. All right. And if you read above, it says signs of Hamashiach's return, which it says Christ, but we know it really should mean Mashiach, the anointed. You see. And then if you continue to read this, Yahweh Shai, he began to tell his disciples about the things that would happen leading up to his return. So let's get to the point. This is Matthew 24:6. It says, "And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass," you see, because it's prophecy. It's all leading towards his return, his glorious Salakia, his glorious return. It says, "But the end is not yet," which the end is not going to follow immediately after those hearing about wars and rumors of wars, because prophecy has to play out. You see, so that's what we're hearing. You see, we're in that time where we're hearing about wars and rumors of wars. The U.S. going up against Iran, Russia, Ukraine, which was a few years ago, and now Taiwan is basically going to go to war with China. All right, so let's play the video, Salakia.
Increased tension, the South China Sea. On Friday, China slammed Taiwan's annual military exercises as a, quote, wasteful charade, claiming Taipei is stoking panic of a potential war with the communist nation. Taiwan spent 10 days carrying out its largest military drills ever, simulating what a possible attack from China would look like. Joining me now with analysis is former Deputy National Security Advisor Victoria Coates. Victoria, thank you for being here this morning. And this is all coming in the backdrop of President Xi coming to meet with President Trump September 24th. And I'm thinking about all the things that they have to talk about, but I imagine this will be on the list as well. And I'm wondering if China sees this window right now where the Iran conflict continues as maybe a potential pocket of weakness to come at President Trump. I mean, Taiwan is obviously exercising these drills for some reason.
Yeah, and there's some reason. It's prophecy. You see, prophecy is going to be fulfilled because the Lord is gathering them together for World War III, that third woe that's coming quickly. You see, that's why we're going to hear about more rumors in the land. Let's get this scripture. This is Jeremiah 51, and let's see, Jeremiah 51. Let's read that verse. We can jump in at 44. It says, "And I will punish Baal in Babylon, and I will bring forth out of his mouth that which he hath swallowed up, and the nations shall not flow together any more unto him. Yea, the wall of Babylon shall fall." You see? So the Lord is going to destroy. You know, he destroyed ancient Babylon, and he's going to destroy the daughter of Babylon. Verse 45, "My people, go ye out of the midst of her, and deliver ye every man his soul from the fierce anger of the Lord." And how do you do that? By turning back to the Lord, by seeking him, because the Lord is going to bring salvation to those that believe on him. You see, which is already prophesied that 2/3 of our people shall be cut off and die, but a third shall be left therein. A third shall be saved. It shall be left for salvation. The Lord is going to preserve that remnant. You see, verse 46, he says, "Lest your heart faint and ye fear for the rumor that shall be heard in the land." You see, and we're hearing rumors here and there, you know, in the land. It says, a rumor shall be born, Salakia, a rumor shall both come 1 year, and after that another year shall come forth the rumor. You see? We're hearing about wars and rumors of wars in these last years of these last days. It says, and balancing the land, ruler against ruler, you see? And this is what we're going to get more and more of as we get, or Salakia, this is what we're going to see more and more of as we get close to the day of the Lord. You see, we're going to see more of violence in the land and ruler against ruler. You see? Which now Iran and U.S., they're going to, they're at war right now. And it's been like that for a few months. But it's going to get worse. And eventually Russia and these other nations are going to get involved. And they're going to come up against America. You see, and America's allies, they're going to hate America also, and they're going to join forces with these other nations, and they're going to bring America down. You see, like it says in the scriptures, and they shall hate the whore, which is America, and make her desolate and naked, and eat her flesh and burn it with fire. You see, because the Lord he's working on the minds of these kings to bring about that day, the day of the Lord. You see, it says, it says, therefore, behold, the days come that I will do judgment upon the graven images of Babylon, and her whole land shall be confounded, and all her slain shall fall in the midst of her. You see? So the Lord is going to bring the judgment to the daughter of Babylon, and that judgment is approaching rapidly. Verse 48, then the heaven and the earth and all that is therein shall sing for Babylon, for the spoilers shall come unto her from the north, saith the Lord. You see? From the north. You see? Russia, that assembly of great nations that the Lord is going to send against Babylon. It says, as Babylon have caused the slain of Israel to fall, so at Babylon shall fall the slain of all the earth. You see? So the Lord is going to bring judgment upon Babylon real soon. And that's why we're hearing about more rumors of war as we get close to that day.
Well, good morning, Jackie. Good to be with you. And yes, I think the summit on September 24th is going to be a very packed agenda. Lots to discuss with Chairman Xi and President Trump. But I actually think President Trump is coming in a position of strength, because as Xi looks at the things that he's accomplished in the last 6 months, both the Operation Epic Fury and the operation against Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela, China doesn't have that kind of force projection capability yet. So I think that we are in a strong position, but this is why it's so important. The Senate acts and passes the NDAA, funds our military, agrees to the president's historic $1.5 trillion budget request for our military. We just can't play games with this anymore, because it is really serious.
Yeah, you're bringing up a really important point. Another thing I think they'll talk about is artificial intelligence. Obviously, we are in a huge race with China, and President Trump has been a proponent of AI here in the United States. He wants it to move forward, and he wants us to win. But that does not mean that the Chinese are sitting back in any way. They're trying to innovate as quickly as possible. But we're dealing with a little push-pull here on regulation. Should we be regulating our own industry when other nations are not? We're looking at some of the risks and trying to balance all of that, but at the same time, our competition doesn't have those kind of guardrails.
No, and this is going to be, I think, really the defining issue of the second half of President Trump's second term. You know, that how are we going to manage AI? Because there's going to be a Chinese platform, there's going to be an American platform. We need to establish the gold standard in terms of both capability and safety, because China won't. They're just going to try to exploit it. And we also need to make sure we are fostering our innovation base. We are much, much, much more innovative than they are. That's why they all want to come to university here and come work in Silicon Valley, because we're the ones who are inventing things. So this is our critical edge. We call it the qualitative technological edge. There's also a qualitative military edge. This is just as important as our military now. And that's what we can offer partners and allies. It's one of the reasons I think you're seeing so many countries around the world, even former enemies like Vietnam, start to pull closer to the United States because they know we're going to be the partner of choice. But we have to make sure that we're keeping our strength up and we're investing where we need to.
Yeah, and the president seems to be doing that. I've just got 30 seconds left for your final word, Victoria.
No, that's the Lord. The Lord is gathering the troops together. He's letting the weak say that I am strong. You see, they're preparing for the great war. He's working on the minds of these kings to gather them together. Let's get that in the book of Revelations. This is Revelations 20. Let's jump to the point. Revelations 20, verse 7. And when the 1,000 years expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. You see? And that Satan, that's talking about the so-called white man who plays the part of the devil and Satan, which it says up here in Revelations 2 and 20. It says, and he laid hold of that dragon, that old serpent. When was that serpent young? Going back to Genesis. That serpent that deceived Eve. That serpent like man that deceived Eve. It wasn't an actual serpent. You see, Eve was deceived and also caused Adam to go off. Which also caused Adam to go off. It says, which is the devil and Satan. See, how can he be the devil and Satan? That's because he plays the part of the devil and he plays the part of Satan, which the word devil goes back to diabolos, which means deceiver, and Satan goes back to adversary. So he's going to play the part as the deceiver and the adversary and bound him 1,000 years, you see, because they failed for 1,000 years. That's why they were laid waste for the dragons of the wilderness. That's why it mentions in the book of Malachi how the Lord hated Esau and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. But it was prophesied that he would return and build those desolate places during the what? The Renaissance period, which the word Renaissance means rebirth. So he came back into power. And it says, and then cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up and set a seal upon him, you see, that he should deceive the nations no more till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that, he shall be loosed a little season, you see. So we're in that little season of the so-called white man, you Edomites, who is known as the devil and Satan, the deceiver, the adversary, the accuser. But that little season, it's a little season because it's coming shortly to an end. All right, so let's get to the point. All right, let's scroll down. It says, Salakia, it says, I'm going to get to the point. Let's see. Here we go. It says, and after 1,000 years, and after the 1,000 years expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison and shall go forth to deceive the nations that are in the four corners of the earth. You see? So Satan, which is the so-called white man, he's going to go out to deceive the nations through his witchcraft, sorcery, through his lies, through his wickedness. It says Gog and Magog to gather them together to battle. You see? World War III, that third woe. The valley of Jehoshaphat or Yahweh-Shaphat. The number of whom is as the sand of the sea. You see? So the Lord is gathering these nations together. And he's working on the minds of these kings to bring them to war. You see? Because that's what the Lord does. He used spirits to work on the minds of these kings. That's why he's going to put the spirit of doubt, the spirit of war on them. That's why they're going to continue to increase their weaponry, their armory. That's why it mentions in the scriptures, it says, let the weak say I am strong. Turn your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears, you see. So they're getting ready for war. This is one step closer to World War III.
Right. I mean, I think this is America's promise for the future. It goes hand in hand with our energy resources, which are going to fuel the world. We're probably going to get more sanctions on Iran coming this week. They probably are going to be China related. That's more for that agenda in September. but I think that we're going to have, we're going to come out on top on this one.
And the sanctions.
Yep, on top to fall. You see, they're putting more sanctions on these other countries. You see, so the Lord is causing a division. Like the scriptures say, if a house be divided, how can it stand? And if Satan be divided against himself, how can he stand? You see?
Sanctions have been very powerful. You starve their economic stream and all their power erodes. Thank you so much, former Deputy National Security Advisor Victoria Coates. Great to see you this morning.
So we're getting one step. So this is one step closer to prophecy being fulfilled. We're going to continue to hear more and more of rumors of war until all hell breaks out. All right. So in the lesson here, all praises to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim, Rakakwadash. Shalom.